welcome to another episode of my 31 days of Halloween. And yes, I am wearing a Wednesday Addams shirt from the show Wednesday. And I got this, which is the Wednesday Addams meal from Wendy's. Halloween is kind of one of like the few times I will indulge in a little bit of like fast food, just because they do cool stuff like this. And then McDonald's does their boo basket, their boo buckets and everything. So yeah, it's like kind of have to indulge a little bit. So, but yeah, so in today's video, I am going to be doing kind of like, I guess like a little bit of like a spooky mukbang with Wednesday Addams style, as we talk about haunted diners. Okay, but before we do, we are going to see what's in this. So I do have, it's kind of melted, but that's okay. My Raven's Blood sundae or Frosty, and that's like, it's like their vanilla ice cream, vanilla Frosty with like raspberry sauce, it looks like. And then I got it, then it's like, it includes like their rest in pieces, like 10-piece chicken nuggets. And then there's also the purple dipping sauce, which is probably terrible for you, but like I said, sometimes you gotta indulge a little bit. And then I got, then like they're just like, small fries and everything with that. So, and then there's like another purple dipping sauce. So, and then yeah, they sent me like plastic, like silverware and all that lovely stuff. So we're just gonna like set this up and then get into the video. I just wanted to share this really quick. This, it's called the Spoon of Gloom. And there's a raven on top of a skull here. I'm probably going to keep this just because it's so cool looking. But yeah, but that's also, what came with it. So yeah, cool. I got this cool little spoon here too. So I don't know. I tend to be very bad at mukbangs just because I don't like talking with my mouth full. And yeah, I'm just gonna try this like purple sauce here dipped in a French fry here really quick. I think it's like purple ketchup, but it's like slightly tangier than ketchup. Definitely spicier. So yeah, so that's this purple sauce here that comes with the Wednesday Addams meal at Wendy's. Yeah, as I was saying, I'm kind of bad at mukbangs just because I don't really like talking with my mouth full. And especially when I get into telling a story, it's like I kind of forget all about my food and I get really into the story. But yeah, but we'll give this a try. I kind of did a little bit of a mini one too, like at the end of Jester 2, but with my Jester 2 review. But yeah, again, it's just like I said, I'm not a big fan of like talking while eating, but we'll still give this a try just for fun and just kind of like a little spooky meal here. And especially since we're talking about diners and haunted diners today, and we'll be telling a kind of like a roadside diner / bed and breakfast story. Okay, so far I am giving the Wednesday Addams meal at Wendy's actually a pretty high review. I would say, maybe a 4 out of 5. It's decent, especially for kind of like a, Halloween kind of splurge meal. So cheers. Okay, so when I'm traveling for any reason, one reason or another, I always enjoy just checking out the sights along the road. Just things like, especially your kind of roadside diner. There's just something about coming across like a diner that's just in a small town or in the middle of nowhere, like on the roadside, that's just like really like, I'm like, ooh, yeah, I want to explore that. I kind of want to experience that. Probably because that diner is just unique to that area, and you're not going to find it anywhere else. Like even when I went to like the Mothman Festival, I sought out a diner that was just only unique to that area, because I mean there were several other restaurants nearby my hotel, which was, like, Cracker Barrel and then, and other places like that. But like I can go to those places anytime. Like that 50s and 60s diner, I could only go there. So, while in that particular town of West Virginia. So yeah, but that's one thing that I love to just explore. There's just something kind of cool and unique and even kind of mysterious about visiting just this local place that, you would only get to experience on a regular basis if you lived there. And, and I do love road trips. I do love to travel. And I also enjoy hearing about like just some local lore, and even just, general urban legends and lore that concern things like, motels, hotels, diners, things like that. So I do, definitely love to kind of keep my ear out for things like that. And there's been like so many different stories surrounding diners, such as, just kind of just like I know like phantom patrons are a big one. As well as, just silverware and things moving by themselves. And I know there's one particular one, I think, at a diner, I forget the name, but a diner down in Texas, where there's a ghost woman that appears like in in one of the mirrors above, I think, one of like the tables or the booths or something like that. So there's things like that. So like I said, things from phantom patrons to, silverware and things moving by itself, to just ghostly, just random ghostly figures that aren't necessarily in booths, because the phantom patrons tend to haunt certain tables or booths in the diner, whereas sometimes there are, random specters that appear all throughout the different, just like a random corner in like the kitchen or something like that. And it makes you wonder why they chose that particular diner to, unless it was like a favorite place of theirs, especially if the diner is quite old and has been around for quite some time. Or, I mean, hey, I'm a history person and I do living history, which I talk about on my other channel and a little bit on here too. And, there's old taverns, especially like in Gettysburg and a lot of these like historic locations, old taverns that have been around since like the late 18th century, early 19th century, that have their stories, that have their sightings, and, people seeing, figures moving around in period clothing that was, correct to the time period of like the 18th and 19th and like, early 20th centuries. So yeah, so it's very, very fascinating to hear, especially, and I do like those little random urban legends and tales. So the story that I am going to be telling you dates back to, based on what I've researched, back to the mid 20th century. And so about like roughly 1950s, 1960s. And it is about a couple traveling, and they happen upon a mysterious house where they take refuge for the night. So there was this husband and wife that were traveling. They were on a road trip, and they were headed back home from where they were going, from where their trip was. And so they're driving on the open road, and it's starting to get dark out, and it's a little ways, according to their map, because back then people used maps, because 50s and 60s, so according to their map, the next available town is quite a ways away where they could possibly get rest, get food, and until then the road just looks completely open. Now they're starting to get tired, and so they kind of are looking for maybe some random place around the highway where they could possibly take refuge and maybe get some rest and something to eat before heading back out on the road the following morning. So as they're driving along, the wife notices what looks to be some chimney smoke in the distance. And as they get closer, sure enough, there is a small house just off of the side of the road, maybe a little ways back. So at this point, the husband and wife, they're both getting really, really tired from driving, and they're really looking to hopefully find a place to maybe get some rest and something to eat, because otherwise they'll be stuck probably sleeping on the side of the road in their car. So they decide to pull off to the side of the road where the house is. And they're hoping that whoever lives there will allow them to stay and give, maybe rent a room, and they're willing to pay for it. But they're hoping that, this will, they'll be allowed to stay here that evening. So they get out of the car and go up to the door and give it a knock, and an elderly couple answers the door. And so the younger couple asks the elderly couple if they're willing to rent any rooms, or, have them, stay and just, even just to get a bite to eat. And the elderly couple is very enthusiastic. They would love the company, and there's no need to pay them. They just tell the younger couple that you're more than welcome to stay this evening, and we would just love to have you. So the younger couple is very enthusiastic also about the elderly couple's response, and they go inside, and the older woman, the elderly woman, she brings out some food, she brings out coffee and cake, and the four of them, they just sit and they talk into the night, and they're actually having a really great time with each other. And the younger couple is, enjoying the company of the elderly couple, and vice versa. So it's turning out to be just a really, really pleasant evening and a really pleasant stop along their trip. So when time comes to turn in for the night, the elderly couple shows the younger couple to a room. And once again, the younger couple offers to pay the elderly couple for their kindness, because they don't want the elderly couple to think that they're trying to take advantage of them in any way. But the elderly couple still will not accept any money. They were just happy to have the company, and they're more than happy to help a younger couple like they once were be safe and stay, just have a safe place to stay where they could, rest and then continue on their way in the morning. So the younger couple and the elderly couple bid each other goodnight, and the younger couple once again thanks the elderly couple, as they do plan to rise early. So just in case they miss the elderly couple on their way out, they once again express their gratitude and once again try to offer to pay the elderly couple for their hospitality. Once again, the elderly couple refuses to take any money, and just says it was only their pleasure to serve that younger couple on their trip. So the next morning, the younger couple rises before sunrise, and they start to head out back on the road. Now, before doing so, they actually leave a little envelope filled with some money for the elderly couple, along with a note thanking them again for their hospitality, basically saying, we know you don't want to accept any money, however, it just wouldn't feel right. You guys were so kind to us, and please accept this token of our gratitude. So they leave that money and the letter on the table and head out on their way, and they're able to reach the next town by sunrise, and they stop at this diner in that town for breakfast. So while they're at that diner, they start talking to the owner and the wait staff as well, the person taking care of their order at the table, and they're just having conversation, getting into how they've been on a road trip, they've been on the road for quite some time, and how last night they had to stop at this elderly couple's house, and they stayed the night there, and how the elderly couple were just so kind and generous to them and allowed them to stay, and they're going on about just basically what a pleasant night they had with this elderly couple. And as they're telling the story, they're noticing the owner and the server just kind of looking at each other, like just giving each other these weird looks. And the young couple just kind of stops and is like, oh, like, can I ask, like, is there anything wrong? Did we say something wrong? Like, what's going on? So the owner looks at the young couple and he asks, you don't mean that house that's maybe about an hour or so from here, that little house, it's just right off the road in basically the middle of nowhere, there's nothing else surrounding that. You don't mean that house, do you? And the younger couple's like, well, yes, like that's the one that we're talking about. Is there anything wrong? And the owner and the server kind of exchange glances once again. And the young couple's just, again, they're absolutely just confused as to the reaction that they're getting from this owner of the diner and their server. And then the server goes, and you said that there was an elderly couple that lived there. And the young couple's like, well, yes, that's exactly what we're talking about. Yes, it's a small house. This is what it looks like. And there's this elderly couple that lived here, and these are their descriptions. And yes, that's where we stayed overnight, and we spent time, talking with them. They're very, very pleasant people. And by this point, they're, the young couple is just really wondering, like, why are they, this older couple definitely seemed, like very pleasant, very kind people. So why are they getting this reaction from the diner owner and the server? And the diner owner just looks at them like and finally says, there's no way you could have stayed at that house. And the young couple is looking like, we did. We know what we saw. We stayed there. Like, what are you talking about? And the diner owner, once again, just gives them this look and says, I don't know how to tell you this, but that house you're talking about burned down to the ground. There was a terrible fire there, burned down to the ground last year. And unfortunately, the elderly couple that lived there, they didn't make it. They didn't make it out. So there's no way you could have stayed there. Upon hearing those words from the diner owner, The young couple is absolutely just speechless. It's like a punch to the gut for them. They have no idea how to respond. So they finish eating and, pay for their meal, thank the diner owner and the server, and head back out on their way. And they're trying to forget about the conversation they had with the diner owner, thinking maybe there was some mistake. Maybe they're thinking about maybe there was somehow another house close by to where they stayed that night, and maybe they missed it. Who knows? And so they're trying to rationalize and reason with each other and what they heard from that diner owner and their server. But it starts to bother them so much that they actually decide to turn around and go back to the location, even if it means that it delays them getting home. They're not going to be able to rest until they actually get some answers as to what is going on, as to where exactly they stayed that night. And, and they're hoping that when they arrive, they'll be able to, find the house with the elderly couple, and perhaps the diner owner was mistaken somehow. So they're driving back to the location, once again, just anticipating seeing the house and the elderly couple, everything being okay. They can turn around and just head to where they're going. So they're heading back to the location, hoping to find the house intact with the elderly couple inside, and then they'll be able to turn around and drive to their destination in peace. So they're getting close to the location, and as they're getting close to the location, they start to see an outline of a structure in the distance. But as they get closer to it and they slow down, all they can do is stare as they see the house. But this time, it is a burnt out shell of what it was. So the young couple slows down, staring in disbelief, still thinking that there must be some mistake. Perhaps they got the location wrong. So to prove it to themselves, they get out of the car and go to the door and enter. Everything, what's left of that house, everything is just completely burned out and charred, with just some parts of the house still intact. The young couple is looking around, trying to piece together exactly what happened, still trying to find a logical explanation to what is going on and to what could have possibly happened that night. And they're still refusing to believe the story that this diner owner told them. However, as they're looking around, the young woman looks at the kitchen table and screams. On that kitchen table is the envelope with the money and the thank you note that they had left that morning before heading back out onto the road. Okay, so that was my roadside kind of bed and breakfast. It's not really a diner story, but it involved a diner, but kind of like a roadside road trip story that involved kind of like a bed and breakfast type of location. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, how would you react if you were in that situation? Or do you have any like cool like diner or road trip or hotel bed and breakfast stories? I do have some that I will also be telling later on in this 31 Days of Halloween. However, this concludes this episode of my 31 days of Halloween, and I hope you enjoyed it. And once again, I am uploading every day throughout the month of October, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And yeah, oh yeah, have you tried the Wednesday Addams meal at Wendy's? And if so, what did you think? So, all right, but thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. And until then, stay spooky and happy Halloween.